The relational answer to the question, who's right and who's wrong, is who cares.
That's right.
I have these big burly guys, why should I have to work so hard to please my wife? And I go, knock, knock, you live with her?
Exactly.
It's in my enlightened self-interest to take care of the atmosphere that I breathe, whether that's my mind, my body, my marriage, my kids, my planet, spirit. It's like we must trade in the patriarchal dominance model for a realistic model of interdependence and cooperation, or the results will be dire.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Every guest we've brought onto this show has done some serious inner work. That's what makes real love possible. Therapy is a big part of that for so many of us. BetterHelp makes it simple to find a licensed therapist who fits you completely online. Visit betterhelp.com/loveready and get 10% off to get started. That's BetterHelp.com/loveready. Welcome to this amazingly special episode that we are going to be sharing today. I'm going to have a conversation with somebody that I have learned so much from over the years about loving better, loving well. And our guest today is Terry Real. He is a family therapist, the creator of Relational Life Therapy, and founder of the Relational Life Institute. He is a best-selling author of 4 books, including Us, Getting Past You and Me to Build a More Loving Relationship. His first book, I Don't Want to Talk About It, published in 1997, was the first book ever written about male depression. He has been called the most innovative voice in thinking about and treating men in their relationships in the world today. What makes this conversation extra special is that Dr. Terry Real was actually my therapist. I credit this man with so much change that I went through because of his help. So today, we are going to be sitting across from Dr. Terry Real, and we're in Boston, Massachusetts, where Terry lives. And this is a dream come true. And I can't wait to share this hour with you and with Dr. Terry Real. Thank you so much, Terry Real, for sharing this time and space of your life with me today. I'm so incredibly grateful for this opportunity.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Robin.
When we planned this trip, we knew we wanted to be on the road doing the Real Love Ready series podcast. And the very first person who I thought of was you. I was like, if Terry Real says yes, this is going to be on. We're going to Boston. And guess what? You said yes. So I just want to say that this is a dream come true. And I say that in such a whole self. When I'm saying that, it's just so powerful, because I think about my life the way it was before we worked together, when you were my therapist. I mean, for me to say that out loud, I'm like, how blessed was I to have Terry Real as my therapist? And at the time, Terry, my life wasn't going great. It's funny because in business, everything was rocking and rolling. We were at In Bloom. You were one of our keynote speakers. It was our first In Bloom in Vancouver. We're spending the weekend talking about love and relationships and how to love well. And here I am in my personal life in such an unhealthy, very harmful marriage. And it was I knew the dichotomy that was going on, But when you said yes to becoming our therapist, I was like, okay, this is it. If this man can help, this is amazing, right? But really, Terry, what you were able to do in what I would consider a very short period of time was help me see things that I needed validation in. I wasn't going crazy, I wasn't making up these things. I had been doing the work already. But you really saved my life. And I say that very seriously.
People think couples therapists are about saving every couple. But in RLT, the work I've created, Relational Life Therapy, what we're about is ending the misery.
Yes.
And helping people move into connection and wholeness and happiness. And Yeah, not to whatever, but as I move in with a couple on the brink like you were,
Yeah.
if anybody can move this, Terry Real can. And conversely, this sounds horrible, but I'll say it. If Terry Real can't move this, maybe it's time to pack a bag. And
Right.
that's where we wound up. And I consider that successful therapy.
I do too. I was so grateful because we had therapists before you, Terry. You know, like I was like, whatever we need to do, I'll pay for it. We're going to do this. We're going to fix this marriage. I mean, that was what we wanted. I thought. Of course. But we weren't getting any results. We were not moving the needle. So it wasn't until you stepped in. And the other difference that you brought, Terry, was, and I said this to you so many times, I remember, you know, I was like, Terry, you remind me so much of my dad, you know? And there was a love and a reverence that I had for you because this is a very intimate relationship, you know? And I trust you. And I was like, whatever this man says, like, I'm going to take to heart. And it was all gold. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, my dear. And I'm glad you got out. I have to say, my friend Trudy Goodman came down to Costa Rica with a book. Nobody read the book. I don't think Trudy read it either, but the title's hilarious. Ready? Death, the end of self-improvement.
Yeah, exactly.
You're finally off the hook. You're dead.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I've done so much healing. I don't want to heal anymore. I just want to live. You know? So Terry, I want to go back to your origin story on how, like, was there an experience you had or a moment you had where you're like, I want to be a therapist? How did you end up on this path?
You know, that Lenin line, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. I was never going to be a therapist. I was a writer. My dad was a failed artist, a fine artist, and I think I was either supposed to redeem him or go down in flames with him, but I was supposed to be joined with him in art. I was a rebel, and I grew up, you know, in a blue-collar town. I skipped most of school, and I went to the boardwalk in Atlantic City, and I wrote. I wrote short stories and novels instead of going to school. And then I talked my way into graduate school. I talked my way into 4 years in a doctoral program in literature. And you can see that in my writing. You can see all the literary references. But then I gave it up. I was writing the great American novel here in Boston, driving a cab. And the second time I got shot at, I decided maybe I needed a better job.
You mean like shot at?
Yeah, driving a cab here. I had the midnight shift, so it was about 4 a.m. Yeah, twice. I didn't get hit, but twice. And the second time, okay. And it was the 70s. I was living in roommates all over the place. It was kind of hippies. And everybody was into mental health. That was what was going on. And so I got a job not far from here at Central Hospital in Somerville. I was a mental health worker, which is a glorified nurse's aide, but it was the 60s, so I had more responsibility then. And I did that for a couple of years and went to social work school and became a therapist. The minute that I sat in the role play therapist chair in my first training, I knew what to do. And I thought, I know what to do more in 5 minutes in this chair than I knew in 4 years in literature. I just know what to do.
Wow. And, you were born to do it.
I was born for it, yeah.
Yes, you were.
And I didn't write for 25 years, not a word. I actually got into therapy to embrace being a therapist and let go of being a writer. And I'll tell you, it was difficult for me because, as you know from my story, my dad was a depressed, violent man. I had a lot of trauma. And the art was always a way of telling my story, of making meaning out of the senseless, overwhelming violence I lived with. And it was a real grief process for me to just say, it's going to live and die with me. I'm going to help people in my office, and my story is my story. And then, it's a true story. One of my great mentors, I always mention Pia Melody, but I had another great mentor, Olga Silverstein, a terrific feminist family therapist from the Ackerman Family Institute. And she'd been my mentor for years. And she called me. We were both teaching at Smith. She said, meet me. It's very Orson Welles. We were under a bridge at night. And she said, I'm going to change your life. I don't often tell this story.
Yeah.
I'm going, what, again, Olga? She said, yeah, I'm going to change your life. Okay, what? She said, well, I'm writing this book on mothers and sons. And my agent, very smart New York gal, has a depressed husband. And she had a literature, and there's no books on male depression. None.
Right.
And so she said, there's a book to be written about male depression. She got all these famous guys wanting. I said, there's this kid, and I was 35. There's this kid in Boston. Pick him. And I said to Olga, I'm a family therapist. I'm not one of these psychology. I don't study depression. I don't even know. Why would I write this book? The true story. She said, well, they gave me $350,000. I said, I'll be right over.
Isn't that amazing?
That's true.
And you wrote the very first book for depression for men.
Ever.
Yes.
The first book ever. So I'm on the plane to talk to this agent, to talk her into letting me have it instead of these famous guys. And I'm thinking, I'm a relational guy. I'm a systems guy. Men in depression. I think men are depressed because masculinity knocks them out of connection and relationship. That's why we're all depressed. And then the light bulb, like I was feeling shame. Like the psychologists, they know with their statistics and their lab mice. What do I know? I think it's because we're knocked out of They're like, why don't you say that?
Well, that's why.
And I scribbled this is a true story. I scribbled some notes on a napkin, and I presented basically the napkin to the agent. She said, you're the guy. And most of the ideas, and I don't want to talk about, are on that napkin.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about it. Way to go. I love that, Terry. Well, I think that just is divine, you know? And I think you were there, you were also in a home where your dad was debilitatingly depressed, right? And it was a lot, you were experienced what depression looks like.
Well, another way of describing it in hindsight, I say I became a therapist in order to garner the skills I needed to have the conversation with my father that I needed in order to not become him. And I did.
So you did have a conversation with your dad?
I did indeed.
Wow.
I did indeed.
Can you tell us about that, Terry?
Well, the trauma he inflicted on me was nothing compared to the trauma that was inflicted on him.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes, doesn't it?
Yes.
So I've written 4 books. Suddenly I'm on the media a lot. And I said to my wife, Belinda, I said, yeah, 4 books and 40 years of work, and I'm an overnight success. Here's my famous quote of 4 books. May I?
Yes.
Family pathology. Family pathology rolls from generation to generation like a fire in the woods until one person in one generation has the courage to turn and face the flames. That person brings peace to their ancestors and spares the children that follow. That's my most famous quote.
I know. It's in my book, too. I had to quote you, Terry, because it's amazing.
Well, it's true.
It is true.
And it's sacred work. The other thing I say is, I am the son of a depressed, violent man. He was the son of a depressed, violent man. I have 2 sons, 38 now and 36. They do not say that, and neither will their children.
No.
And that is the greatest achievement of my life.
It is. Oh, Terry, I love it so much. So tell me, when did you realize yourself was this before you had kids?
Oh, yeah.
That you did all this work around generational trauma and realizing and had that conversation with your dad and started doing that healing work? Can you tell me about when was that moment, or was it just like a series of awakenings that you had, okay, I have to stop the cycle and do this work?
Well, one of the gifts, spiritual gifts in my life, unlike most, and it may be gender, it may be because I'm a man, boy, unlike most traumatized kids, unlike my wife, Linda, for example, who blame themselves.
Mm.
You know, it's a coping strategy to blame yourself. If I'm bad, then maybe if I get good enough, I can get them to stop. I have some control.
Right.
Whereas I'm good and they're beating the shit out of me. I'm living in a hostile, random world that I have no control. That's overwhelming. So a lot of kids blame themselves as a coping strategy. And of course, they are being told, you deserve this. So for some reason, and I really think it's karma, grace, I don't know, but I never for a moment believed that it was me. I remember, I never thought I deserved it. I never thought I was bad. Like a lot of kids from really bad families, I spent as much time as I could in other families, healthier families. I spent a lot of time in the woods by myself. And that was honestly kind of a spiritual experience for me. I knew they were crazy. I knew my parents were crazy. I grew up in really rough and tumble blue-collar Camden, New Jersey. My teachers were pretty... I had a teacher in third grade who told my mother that because my brother and I were twins, we're fraternal twins, she should only expect a C because everybody knew twins only had half the gray matter of normal people. And he meant it.
Wow.
That's the school I went to.
Yes.
So I didn't go to school.
Wow.
And I ducked out of my parents. I ducked out of school. I ducked out of the sort of cruel kids on the playground. I spent a lot of time on my own. I spent a lot of time reading. And I just protected myself. And I knew that this wasn't right.
Yeah.
I knew ever since I was little, there's something better than this. And honestly, up until 18, 19, when I finally went to college, it felt like I was just in jail. I can't watch jail movies.
Yeah, I know, because you had to maintain your, that was your safety.
I was serving my time until they let me out of jail.
Serving your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, until you can be on your own.
Yeah.
I get that. But you do talk about how, like anger, you had anger in the beginning, right?
Yes.
And that was something that you and Belinda, you would fight and getting these big, that was something that was passed down, right? Dealing with conflict or, anger in itself could be something that's like an emotion that is passed down, right? That's how you fight. And so you had to unlearn that.
Yes.
Right? And was that with Belinda?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, she grew up in violence. She's a fighter. We talk a lot about what we call the adaptive child part of you, fight, flight, or fawn, which as an adult is fix. And this is your knee jerk that you learned as a kid. And then you compulsively bring that into your relationships. We'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
So that's how you adapted. That's how you survived.
Yeah.
So I'm a fighter. Belinda's a fighter. The heat goes on between the two of us, like, fuck you, no, fuck you, no, fuck you, no, fuck you. No.
Yeah.
We're symmetrical like that. And then somebody takes a breath and takes a break and calms down. But my knee jerk is to fight, yeah. And first I became an individual therapist, and then I learned family therapy to learn how to have a relationship, which individual therapy doesn't teach. So I really needed to learn the principles of how to have a good relationship in order to have one. I've always been upwardly mobile, and not just socioeconomically, but psychologically, spiritually upwardly mobile. I've always been, and there are those of us who are just born this way. It's like you look around, somebody's beating the crap out of you, or you're all alone, or both, and you go, there's a star. I want to be that star.
Wow.
I had a mentor who spent a long time teaching me a lot of stuff. A lot of my wisdom is his. And I said, why are you doing this for me? He said a beautiful line. He said, you made it through the cheese strainer alive.
Wow, I like that. Yeah. I've never heard it said that way. You've been upwardly mobile.
And that's what we want to give our kids.
Yes.
I'm in the middle of teaching a course on parenting right now online, and I talk about the American dream. What is it? The American dream is our kids will have it better than we. That's what it is. That's a definite. But when we say it, we think about materially. I think about it spiritually, psychologically. Our
Me
kids
too.
will have better hearts. Our kids will have
Yes.
more happiness. Our kids will have better relationships.
Yes.
That's what I'm after.
Me too.
Yeah. I'll tell you a beautiful story. My 75th birthday in my house in Martha's Vineyard, and my kids came, and they're men. And I was dropping the oldest one at the airport to go home. We were sitting in the parking lot waiting. And I said to him, we may have differences in a lot of stuff, but I got to tell you, and he's so different. It's like, he's like a big burly jock,
Mhm.
You have the family religion, and we have passed on the values. You can read a room. You have a big heart. You have EQ to burn. And he took my hand.
Oh,
Such a sweetheart. He took my hand and he said, "Transmission received, Dad."
oh my gosh, Terry. Wow.
So we did it.
Yes.
We did it.
Yes,
We
you did.
changed the legacy that we came from,
Yes.
both of us.
Yes. And we all have the power to do that.
Yes, we do.
And this is the profound work that you're doing with Relational Life Therapy, with all of your work, Terry, is you're helping people change, because we have the power to do that. And, I love everything, like, you're such a great teacher. And what you remind us is, like, it's every day. It's in every choice we make. It's in every action. It's our thoughts. It's how we think.
It's crazy.
It is.
It's instant karma, baby.
Instant karma.
Instant karma. I'll be sitting with a couple and they'll be giving me grief. They'll be giving me a lot of resistance. And I'll say, "Hey, look, I'm in service, not sales. You don't want to use these skills? Don't use these skills." I got to tell you, though, Belinda and I every day use the same goddamn skills I'm trying to teach you.
Yeah.
And on the days when we indulge ourselves and don't use those skills, we look just as ugly as you do.
Yes.
People love hearing that. But mostly we used to look like that all the time 30 years ago.
Right.
Now we'll look like that a couple, 3 times a year, maybe. And I've been you, and I've been me. Nobody handed this to me. I had to claw my way here. But let me tell you something. This is a lot happier than that is. Come on, let me help you.
That's for sure. I love that. So science is starting to show us that our parents' pain doesn't just shape us psychologically. It actually lives in our bodies, in our stress response systems, in our biology. What does that mean for how we understand the work of healing?
And you do this, by the way, when we talk, stuff comes out of me that I wasn't there before.
I sure hope so.
Well, you do. I'll bet you do it with others, but you definitely do it with me. Here's what came to me. There's so much indigenous wisdom. Northern Caucasian culture, of all the cultures in the world, man, there's a lot of wisdom. And one of them is the wisdom of our ancestors living with us.
Yes.
And really, this is the wisdom of our ancestors living in us, literally in our DNA.
Yes.
And I said that famous quote, I said it so glibly, that person heals the ancestors that came before and spares the children that follow. But my ancestors' trauma is in my DNA. When I heal that DNA, I'm healing them.
You're healing generations before you.
Generations before, and transforming generations above.
And that is, like, I see that. I understand that. I know that. When we remember that we are souls having this human experience, that makes perfect sense to me. It's like, we're all connected. So when I heal something that has been passed down, and it's like, it's gone. Like, it's, I might have a scar or something. I don't know how in the soul, I don't think you have scars. I think we have memories and all these things that build into, like, our gifts and our talents that we're here to share with each other. But when you heal it, it's like, it can be dissolved. It doesn't have to be carried anymore. So I understand how that can be, like, shared with generations behind us, as well as, like, our children, that it transforms how they are.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing, actually.
That's very spiritual, very beautiful.
It is very spiritual. It's like mom, dad, grandma, granddad, you can go now.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp, and I'm genuinely grateful for their partnership in this show. One of the things I keep thinking about is the way we love is not fixed. It's not determined by our past, our parents, or every relationship that didn't work out. We actually get to change. We get to grow. But that just doesn't happen on its own. It takes intention. It takes honesty. It takes a lot of self-reflection. And for a lot of us, it takes having someone to walk us through it. Therapy has been a part of my own growth in such a fundamental way. And what I love about BetterHelp is that it's designed for real life. You fill out a short questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can connect with them online whenever it works for you. If Real Love Ready has meant something for you, and you're ready to do a little more of the work on yourself, I think BetterHelp is a great place to start. Go to betterhelp.com/loveready for 10% off. That's BetterHelp.com/loveready. So I wanted to read a quote that we found on Reddit.
Okay.
And it was somebody talking about one of your recent articles, Terry. I don't know how you undo decades of psychological conditioning, that you're completely on your own emotionally, and sharing those feelings is at best neutral, but usually risks making the situation worse. Therapists have told me I should be learning to be more open and trusting, but it feels impossible at this point in my life. The damage has been done. For the person watching right now who thinks the damage is already done, whose kids are grown, whose marriages have suffered, what do you want them to know about what's still possible?
Okay, the damage has been done.
Yeah.
That's real. The damage was done when you were 4, 5, 8. How old are you now? What we grew up with is responsible for the damage that got done to us. From about 18 on, we become responsible for what we choose to do with that damage.
Yes.
Let me say that again. Do you want to be a victim to the damage and just act it out, pass it on to the people who live with you, to the next generation? Or do you want to do the work? And believe me, I don't blame you. It's backbreaking, painful, lifelong work. If you don't want to do it, fine, but nothing gets better. And if you do the work, it can get better. Now, I don't believe that our wounds get healed. There are a lot of trauma people who are promising that. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I believe what we call the wounded child part of us, very young, the wound itself, and what I call the adaptive child part of us, the part that came in and took over. Those automatic responses, young, immature, often not particularly appropriate to what's in front of you. That's why you get into trouble. Those responses, you can do trauma work. You can book into a year and do trauma work every day. You're 80 years old. Somebody says something to you, guess what? Those parts of you are going to be up and running.
Yes.
We can diffuse them. We can cultivate putting our arms around them. We can reparent them. But they're always with us. And we can lessen their power over us, but we don't lessen them.
Yeah.
But it's our job to reparent them. What does that mean? It's really inner child work. I got little Terry. He's about 8 years old. He's a composite. He's on the streets of Camden, New Jersey, and don't you even think about messing with him. Don't even.
When you were 8, you were like that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't even think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll slit your throat so fast. You don't mess with him.
Yeah.
That's my fighter. He kept me alive. Good for you. Now, here's the deal. My fighting wife grew up with violence just like me, comes in that one day a year when she's not sweet and angelic, comes in and she's mad at me about blah, 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 blah. I'm not a 75-year-old man listening to my 70s. I'm like that 4-year-old, 8-year-old. And I'm
Yeah, he just
listening
comes out. He's just like, don't mess with me.
instantly.
Yeah.
Whoosh, I call it.
Mhm.
And she's my father. And in 3 more seconds, he's going to get his belt out and start clobbering me. And that ain't happening. Whoosh. And I take that 8-year-old and I put him behind me. I physically put him behind me. He holds onto my shirt. And I go, look, I've got to deal with you, little Terry. You little motherfucker, you.
Yeah.
God bless you. But here's our deal. That anger that's coming at us, I'll take care of that. That stops from my big butt. You're 8. That's not I'm like Superman.
Yeah.
I'll take the hit. You're protected back there.
Right.
You don't have to feel Belinda's anger. I will. You're okay back there. That's my part of the deal. Now here's your part of the deal. You let me deal with my wife. Don't you try to do it.
Right. That 8-year-old is not going to be, no. You don't have a chance.
No. So what I say is when our inner children kick up, which are early states from trauma and how we adapted, when our inner children kick up, put them on your lap, put your arms around them, hear them, love them, let them know you're there, take their sticky hands off the steering wheel. You ain't driving the bus, I am. Love you, honey. You're in the back seat. Okay, now Belinda, tell me what you're upset about. And that's the work we have to do. We have to get centered in our prefrontal cortex. We call it the wise adult. And intimate relationships will evoke every wound you've ever had, and then the adaptation to that wound. And we bring that adaptation into our relationships, and we think that that's going to get us what we want, and it doesn't. What relational life therapy is about is take a breath, take a walk. It's what the wonderful neurobiologist Dan Siegel calls the responsive brain instead of the reactive brain. We're talking about the wise adult, prefrontal cortex, stop and think, and then subcortical limbic system, the wounded child, which is just all feeling, and then the adaptive child, which is the you that got by. And many of the people I treat have lived their entire lives in their adaptive child, thinking that's an adult, and it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
And they're wondering why they're in such bad, like unhappy in their relationships. Well, it's been a teenager, right? You're still a teenager.
You're a teenager, and your moves are automatic and compulsive and repetitive.
Right.
My friend Thomas Ubel, the spiritual teacher, says to observe is to have choice, because the part of the brain that can observe is the same part of the brain. Stop and think. We call it relational mindfulness. Bring the prefrontal cortex back online. Remember love.
Remember love.
This is not the enemy. I care about this person. Wait, why am I talking? To make things better. Okay, now I'm centered. Now I can go to you and process our relationship. If I don't do that first, all bets are off.
Yeah. This person that was talking about how, she's like, it might be too late for me. And just going back to what we were talking about before, Terry, it's like, it's never too late, right?
No, what are you, Dad?
mean, when you had that conversation with your dad, how old was your dad at that time?
Well, he didn't live very long. He had a terrible life. But I'll tell you this. I'll tell you two, I love to tell stories.
I love your stories.
Here's my dad. And he was a tough old guy. On his deathbed, my brother on one side, me on the other. He couldn't move. He had ALS. He was totally paralyzed. But he could still speak. And he said in his very gruff way, he said, listen, I want you to understand something. He said, I didn't do that well with you two. He said, what I want for you two is to do better than I did.
Mm.
I said, when you're where I am now, the only thing that counts is love. Everything else is just bullshit. And he died. So he got it. So I want to tell you a story.
Yeah.
When people say they're too old. This is an absolutely true story.
Yeah.
So I got a call from a guy, and he said, I was doing these deep trauma groups, 8 people, a whole week of just deep trauma work. So you still doing those groups? Yeah. Would you do one with a bunch of brothers? They were all strangers.
Wow.
I got 4 brothers, and we're all hurting.
Wow.
Okay, so I did. I did a week, and then we met every other week with these 5 guys. They had a horribly violent, abusive father, alcoholic. Got sober, but never apologized. They all were. One was fat. One was 2 had substance issues. Their marriages were all crazy, and they did the work. And over the course of 6 months, they all got better. This one went to OA. This one went to marriage. They all started getting better. This is an absolutely true story.
Yes.
All right. So one day I'm sitting, and God, because who picks up their phone? The phone rings, and I happen to pick it up.
Yeah.
And this voice, "Is this Terry Real?" I go, "Yeah, who's this?" "This is so-and-so." It was the old man. It was the father.
He was the dad.
It was the dad, 84 years old. And he says, I said, "Oh, I've been hearing a lot about you."
You're the one caused all this damage I just fixed.
"Well, I've been hearing a lot about you too," he says. "I got a question for you." I go, "Okay. What are you doing with my boys?" I go, "Why do you want to know?"
Yeah.
"What are you doing?" "I'm doing my best to help them feel better. Why do you want to know?" He said, "Well, whatever you're dishing out, I think I should use a little."
Wow.
He came in, true story, 84, came in, wanted to settle things before he died. And we brought the boys in, and he made amends. And I took a leaf from Chloe Madonis' page, and 84, I had him get on his knees with these boys and say he was sorry. He didn't ask for their forgiveness. You don't ask for anything. You make amends. He said he was sorry, and he owned it. And they did forgive him, and they all had a really lovely 3 or 4 years, and then he passed on.
Wow.
84.
Wow.
So my message to you, young man, unless you're 86, you have some work to do.
And we still have time. It's never too late. No. So let's talk about men and masculinity.
Great.
And a cultural moment that we're in. It is a moment. 80% of men say a stable, long-term relationship is important to them. 85% under 35. And yet nearly half of those same men admit they hold back from emotional intimacy because they're afraid. Men want love and are simultaneously the ones standing in the way of it. How do we reconcile the two?
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
That all of these courageous men, and what is a masculine man if not courageous, are petrified of feelings.
Wow.
I like to say it isn't under patriarchy that we have strong men and weak women. It's that we parse out their domains. We don't ask women to not be afraid of wild animals, and we don't ask men to not be afraid of wild feelings.
Wild feelings. Yeah.
Look, you've heard me say this. Leading men, women, non-binary folk into the intimacy we all want these days.
Yeah.
Is synonymous with leading us beyond patriarchy.
Yeah.
Traditional gender roles don't produce intimacy. They're not supposed to. They produce stability.
Right.
But we want real lover relationships forever. Marriage was never built for that. It's a new demand. What does this mean? The essence of masculinity under patriarchy to this day is invulnerability.
Yes.
Just remember that. The more invulnerable you are, the more manly you are, the more vulnerable, the more girly. Okay, so how can you be intimate and invulnerable at the same time? You can't.
You can't be.
So women who've been empowered, going into the workforce, having money, 50 years of feminism, Like, I don't need you the way Jane Austen needed you.
I'm not looking for stability.
I'm not, if I don't marry you, I don't wind up in my uncle's, cabin. I'm okay. So if I'm going to marry you, then there has to be a reason beyond your paycheck. That means intimacy.
Yes.
And we don't raise boys and men in our culture to be intimate. We raise them to be strong and tough.
Right.
So there's a disjuncture. One of the things, Erik Erikson, the great psychologist, said it's the hallmark of a functional culture that the way you're raised as a kid prepares you for what's going to be asked of you as an adult. Not men, not now. I say that guy after guy, the very things you learned on the playground growing up, whether you wanted to or not, be strong, be tough, be invulnerable, have no feelings, be logical, be independent, don't care about others. Those values, by today's standards, will ensure that you'll be seen as a lousy husband. So when I work with a man in a heterosexual couple and lead him to intimacy, Robin, I think we have to have a humble, compassionate sense of what we're asking of these men. To open your heart, have feelings, be compassionate, be flexible, be told what you do and do it without making a fuss. These are all things you need to be able to do as a family man. They're all the things that are shame for a real man. And so what we're asking these men to do is nothing less than reconfigure masculinity itself. It's revolutionary work.
It is.
It is.
And it demands that work.
Yes, it does.
There's a lot of people that don't want to do it, but you know what? There's a lot that are doing it, which, like you talk about it as relational technology.
Yes.
And I love that because this is stuff we can learn.
Yes,
That is the most empowering thing. I mean, this is why we do what we do at Real Love Ready. I mean, we talk about love is skill-based.
Yes.
Things not airy-fairy. I mean, really, we can learn how to love well. We can learn how to relate. And that's a beautiful thing. And if you say, who cares if you're as long as you're practicing and you can be faltering every day, but you're still doing it.
Yeah. And, you don't have to be perfect, but the techniques that we teach, that you teach, that I teach in Relational Life Therapy, are so different from the culture and so much more powerful.
Yes.
That even doing them badly will change your life. It's like, go ahead and do them badly now.
So where do you start?
We start with a new vision.
Yes.
It's not me versus you. It's not individualistic. So Gregory Bateson, who is the father of family therapy, an anthropologist married to Margaret Mead, and he said he spent his entire life doing what he could to correct what he called humankind's philosophical mistake, which is what? That we stand outside of nature, that's individualism, and that we can control it, that's patriarchy.
Mm.
They're both delusions. And we replace that with what I call ecological wisdom. You're not above nature, you're not below nature, you're in nature. Our relationships are our biospheres. And how do I get these big, tough, grandiose guys to come down? It's in your interest. It's in your interest to come off your high horse, stop bullying your way, open your heart, and feel what it feels like to be loved. You'll like it better.
Yes.
It's in our enlightened self-interest to take care of the biosphere.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I can indulge and scream at Belinda over here, but I'll breathe in that pollution over here with her distance or coldness.
Mm-hmm.
There's no escape. So once you start thinking relationally, ecologically, everything changes.
Yes.
Can I give you an example?
Yes, please.
The relational answer to the question, who's right and who's wrong, is who cares.
That's right.
The relational question is, how are you and I going to work this thing in a way that's going to work for us?
Yeah.
We live together. I have guys, I have these big burly guys. Why should I have to work so hard to please my wife? And I go, knock, knock. You live with her.
Exactly.
It's in my enlightened self-interest to take care of the atmosphere that I breathe, whether that's my mind, my body, my marriage, my kids, my planet, spirit. It's like we must trade in the patriarchal dominance model for a realistic model of interdependence and cooperation, or the results will be dire for all of us. So we're in the middle of a sea change. And you asked me about the current moment. The current moment all over the world is a resurgence of the most naked, vile aspects of traditional patriarchy.
Wow.
Sheer male abusive dominance, no matter what the body is. It could be a woman doing it. And there's a celebration of shameless, offensive dominance. I honestly believe it's the death throes because it doesn't represent the world. The world we live in is ecological and interdependent.
Yes.
Me unilaterally controlling, it may be in the 18th century, but the plastic you throw in the ocean winds up in your brain. We say, oh, we got to stop China. They're roll tanks down Fifth Avenue. Honey, China owns Fifth Avenue. All China has to do is call in its debt and Fifth Avenue would go bankrupt. But they can't do that because Beijing would go bankrupt the day after. We no longer live in that kind of world, that macho, strong arm.
We're interdependent.
World. We are. And either we humans are going to catch up and be adaptable to what's in front of us. What maladaptation means is whether it's a patient on a schizophrenic ward or whether it's a nation, we're not in fitting with what's in front of us. We're bringing something that what was from behind, and we're trying to act like that is adaptive to what's in front of us. And we're ignoring all of the signs that we're wrong. That's where we are right now. But there's a counterforce. I absolutely believe there's a counterforce.
Yes.
Because we know better. We know this is bullshit. So you can be one up and bully your way and get your way in the short run.
In the end, that's going to harm you. That's what you teach, right? It's like if you are dominating and possessive and controlling, lying, deceitful, that is harming you.
That's right.
As you think you're harming other people, but how could it not harm you?
That's right.
You're causing harm to another.
That's right. But what makes the human species dicey is that grandiosity does feel good.
Right.
Intoxication feels good. Acting out feels good. Drinking that third martini feels good. Making out with your secretary feels good. We're not so stupid that when we turn to self-destructive things, we turn to things that feel bad.
Yes.
All grandiosity feels good. We have to think our way down. That third martini, feels good, but it's not good for me. Screaming at my kid, feels good, not good for me. And we as a species have to let our wise adult, thoughtful prefrontal cortex lead the way. Because if we are led by our wounds and counter postures, denying those wounds, and that's what drives the bus. We drive it right into the ground. So we're teetering. I think we're teetering on the edge of an evolutionary change for humanity. And we're either going to make it or we're not. And I think which side of this equation wins. I mean, I don't mean to whatever, but I believe which side of this equation wins will determine the fate of our planet.
So two things came to mind when you were speaking. The word grandiosity, which, I've been learning this from you for years, but can you explain it? Because, you talk about, it's like you're either coming from like one up or one down. So inferiority or grandiosity.
Yes, superiority.
Superiority. But you use the word grandiosity, which is very different, Terry. Like, and explain that to us. And also, like, I wanted to learn a little bit more about like the feeling good part.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good to be inferior.
No.
but it's like one side of the same coin, right? So, but isn't it funny that grandiosity feels good? And like, so first of all, why the word grandiosity, what that really means, and also the feeling good part, which is, it's messed up, right?
Yeah, it's messed up.
It's messed up.
Yeah, inferiority, superiority, lording it over, contempt, being above the rules, being entitled. Those are all forms of grandiosity. A lot of people talk about narcissism. I don't like that word. I say to my students, if somebody carries the label of narcissism, it probably means their therapist doesn't like them very much. I like grandiosity. One down, one up. We all go one down and one up.
Yes.
We all are. And here's what's incredible. What drives both is contempt.
Contempt.
Yes. When that contempt goes into me, we call that shame. I'm such a bad person. I'm ugly. I'm unlovable. When that contempt goes out at you, we call that grandiosity. She's such a loser. Whoever gave her that job, probably a DEI or whoever. But it's the same energy. It can even be the same words. I can't believe that, Robin. What a stupid. I can't believe that I said that. What a stupid. It's the same energy.
Contempt.
Yes. And here's what I believe. When I started off, I believed that contempt was the precursor to violence. Here's what I believe now. Contempt is violence. And what I'm asking folks is to step off the contempt conveyor belt.
Yes.
Sometimes that flashlight goes out at you. We call that grandiosity, superiority, being one up. Sometimes that flashlight goes into me. We call that shame, inferiority, being one down. Here's what I want you to do. Turn off the fucking flashlight.
That's it.
Live a contempt-free life, whether it's between you and others, whether it's the way others treat you, whether it's the way you treat others, whether it's the way you treat yourself.
Yes.
Here's one. And if you listeners just get this one thing from this talk, this one thing has the power to change your life. It really does. And it will shake up your relationship. Ready? There is no redeeming value in harshness.
No more.
No more. There is nothing that harshness does that loving firmness doesn't do.
That's right.
Better. Terry, get out of bed, put your sneakers on, get your ass to the gym. Fine. Terry, you're a goddamn loser. You're a piece of shit. No.
No, that's harsh. No, you're not doing that. Yep.
I got to tell you, I've been at this work for 30 plus. At 75, I have a deal with the universe. It's not perfect, but if it's harsh, I'm not interested.
Yes.
If it's not kind, thank you. And even to myself, that adaptive child in me is like, why did you do that? Why? Hold on, honey. You may have something to say to me, but here's what I want you to listen to. Say it like you're on my side. If you can say it like you're on my side, I'll listen. If you're going to say it like my Lord and mighty judge, I've had enough of that in my life.
Yes.
Thanks anyway.
Terry, I love this. It's like so synchronistic. I have been praying to release my self-judgment, because my critical Robin, I don't even know what age, but man, she is not nice to herself. Like, she is not nice. And it's just like all the things, I'm giving myself shit. And all the time, I was doing that. And I realized it. I mean, I can have loving thoughts about everybody else, but when it comes to me, I'm like not talking to myself. Like, that's contempt.
Yes, that's contempt.
Self-directed contempt.
Right. And you just don't need it.
Absolutely not.
But you don't need harshness with harshness. You need harshness with loving firmness.
Yes. So can we talk about relational life therapy?
Yeah.
Because you've been at this for so long, and you are training therapists on how to do therapy
all over the world.
Differently.
Yes.
So I know from experience, because you were a therapist, thank you so much. And I know it was different, like from the minute you started working with us. And for me, it was individual, and then you did couples therapy with us. But what is it that how is it so different? Because it is very different.
Very different. We break all the rules. So, first of all, psychotherapy, which is up to its eyeballs in patriarchy, has been dealing for 50 years with shame. We haven't done anything with grandiosity. We don't deal with perpetrators. We don't deal with offensive people. We wash our hands. Now, narcissists can't be true. We wash our hands. We do with them what wives do with irresponsible, we cajole, we reason, we nurture. No. So we take on grandiosity as well as shame. And we have a way, and we call it joining through the truth.
Joining through the truth.
Yeah, and it's a 2-year training program to do this well. I want people to go. But we have a way of going to, let's say, grandiose Robin. We're not. You're more one down and one up. But let's just say you were one up. And you were a rager, and you were this, and you were that. I have a way of first working with the people you're living with to help them give me data about how bad you are, because you won't tell me, you'll minimize it, and put some pressure on you. This has got to change. So the first thing I do is I empower the one down one to come up and take on the one up one. Then I turn to your, we'll say, husband. Let's make you grandiose, and which is hilarious because you're not. And I would say, if this doesn't change, you've been to 4 therapists, you've been raging for 10 years, what's going to happen? Well, what? I guess I can't live like this forever. You sure? So I amplify the dissatisfaction, and I amplify the result. I empower the one down one to come up. Now there's some consequences. Then I turn to you. Do you love Steve? Yeah. Do you want to lose him? No. Do you know you are going to lose him after a round with me? Yeah, I might. You want that to happen? No. Can I help you? Okay. But we don't try and help the grandiose person in one-on-one transference therapy. I'll be there for 5 years. I bring in the partner. I bring in the grandiose one. What's wrong? Stress, my back. People are assholes. I bring in the partner. Oh my God, he drinks 3 martinis a night. He screams at the kid. He needs to be on some medication. Okay, great. I just saved myself like 4 years of therapy.
Yes.
So we work systemically with people who are grandiose to help them. And we amplify. Grandiosity impairs judgment. The more grandiose you are, superior you are, the less empathy you have. And the more superior you are, the less clarity you have about negative consequences. Think about an adolescent boy driving down the road. Adolescent boys are naturally grandiose.
Yes.
I got this on that. No, you don't. Or think about mania and bipolar disorder. You have to lock people up because their judgment's so impaired. So it's judgment impairing. So I work to bring other people in to help give me the data I need to help you see that what you're doing is not going to work. But I do it with love.
Yes, you do. You do it with love.
That's right.
And the other thing that's very different is that you do take sides.
Yes.
You're not afraid to call out when one person is doing stuff that's just like, absolutely not. Like, this is not okay.
Look at you. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not neutral. In couples therapy school, you're taught everything's 50-50, which is, it defies common sense. It's just bullshit.
Right, it is.
It's not always 50-50.
Of course not.
So, women in particular drag in unbelievably difficult men. And a therapist like,
Communicate better.
All RT therapists do exactly what I do. She's right. You're wrong. This is what's going to happen if you don't listen to her. Do you want help or not? And every time we do that, the person in the one down position, could be man or woman, the person in one down position doubles over and starts crying. I dragged that son of a bitch to 5 therapists, and you're the first person who took them on.
Exactly, Terry.
And that's what we do. And no other therapists do it.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness. Thank goodness. So you've spent 40 years in the room with couples, usually at their worst, sometimes at their best. What is the most surprising thing love has taught you?
The power of empowerment.
Yeah.
I tell my students, we want to set a high bar and expect our clients to rise to the occasion. I love poetry. Here's a quote from the great German poet Goethe. It's not a poem, but here's a quote I teach all my students. If you treat someone as they are, they will be as they are. If you treat someone as they ought to be, they may become who they ought to be.
Yeah.
Hey, Robin, we can do better than this. I'll hold your hand. Let's go.
Right. The empowerment, the power of empowerment. Wow. That is, when you said that, it just felt like a light beam. It was like when you are able to shine light on somebody fully, it's like you can shine. And then you're like, oh, I'm good. I'm like, there's something like, I think about my grandma, okay? Like my grandma was that person for me. She just loved me unconditionally. And it was so tender and so pure. And whenever I was with her, I just felt so good. I could be myself, like unabashedly, Like that's awesome when you have those people in your life, And I really felt like when you were my therapist, it was like, I needed that light. I needed you to shine that light on a situation that was very dark. And you did that, Terry. Like that, it's powerful. I felt empowered through our work together.
Thank you.
Among many things.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, what is one myth about love that we can collectively need to unlearn right now?
That it's supposed to be spontaneous. And if you have to work at it, it doesn't count.
That if you have to work at it, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should just, sure. And particularly women have this. If I have to ask him, it doesn't count. He should.
Right.
Prince Charming should know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And and it's almost like discounted. If I have to, right.
Yeah. So I got bad news, girl. You're going to have to roll up your sleeves and fight for it. Here's what I say. Prince Charming is probably just come out of rehab. Cinderella's dead. If you want it, you're going to have to use your skills and work for it.
Oh, I like that. So our last question is, what is love?
Isn't that funny? I want to answer like the judge who was ruling on porno. I don't know. You know it when you see it. you know it when you feel it. Everybody knows what love feels like.
Yeah, we do.
The issue isn't teach me what it is or how to feel it. The issue is how do I believe in it, and how do I give it the artfulness that it deserves to sustain it. That's the issue. We all start off loving each other, and then it goes to shit. The love is free. The art, you have to pay for.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I thank you, Terry Real, for sharing this time with me. It was amazing. I knew it would be, but it was even like greater and grander than I ever could have wished for. So thank you.
Bless you. Bless you for this work.
The Real Love Ready series is a Soul Print Media production, presented by BetterHelp, hosted by me, Robin Ducharme. Executive producers, Robin Ducharme, John Kim, Tara Malhotra Feinberg, Hilary Swanson. Senior producer, Miriam Debbie Talbot. Producers, Tara Malhotra Feinberg and Maya Anstey. Directed by Miriam Debbie Talbot. Edited by Susie Landers O'Connell. Production coordinator, Leah Schultz. Post sound mixing, Christian Deutsch.